Corps stories, ordinary Marines, extraordinary lives.
Hey everybody. This week we have the huge honor and thrill of interviewing Gunnery Sergeant Charles Wolf, United States Marine Corps retired, whom you would know better as Gunny Wolf, the creator of Semper Toons. I have to admit that when I was dreaming of this podcast, I had hoped he would be one of my first podcast guests, because he is doing something so incredible. He is lifting morale with timeless Marine Corps humor, and I love it. I have loved every single cartoon I have ever seen of his. And he rarely gives interviews, and ours is his first video podcast, so whew, that's a big deal. Anyway, completely honored. It's a long form interview, but we get to know sort of the man behind the pen, and it's huge. Anyway, and funny. Anyway, enjoy. I'll catch you on the backside. Please hit subscribe, and thanks. So exciting. All right. Gunny Wolf, it is such an honor to have you here in my podcast. I have to say, I've kind of secretly been hoping to interview before I even launched the podcast back in August. Yes, because I've been following you for a while, and I am so inspired by your cartoons, your work, because I don't know, they're so diverse and they're so funny. And I think everybody, no matter like I was in the Navy 20 years ago, 20 plus years ago. And all the Marines who I'm very close with were in the Marine Corps much longer ago than that. And yet I know a lot of Marines who are in the Marine Corps now, and they all find them funny. So it's like ageless. It's like your art is ageless. And so I love that. And so I kind of thought, I have got whatever it is you put into it. I don't know how you come up with these hilarious cartoons. I don't know how you sort it out, but I wanted to know. So anyway, tell us, how did you come up with Semper Toons? And
yes,
go right ahead.
No, thank you so much for having me. For everybody out there, I don't do this very often. I'm kind of old school, but at the same time, I want to be new school. I'm still trying to figure that one out, but this is exciting. And at the same time I'm doing this, I just want to set the example for other Marines and their families and service members to just try something new, go out there and get it and just don't hold back. So this is me doing that. So I hope that inspires everyone as well.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. So basically what happened was, I'm from a small town in Ohio. I drew my whole life, and basically that came from just filling time. There wasn't a lot to do in my small town, so instead of going and getting in trouble, I just used a lot of pencils, and I was creative with my imagination. And then I joined the Marine Corps. Actually, I'll back up. So I was accepted into a art program in 11th and 12th grade. So I submitted my portfolio and I was accepted. So it was a joint vocational school. And there I learned how to do commercial art, so signs and things like that. So from there, I did join the Marine Corps. I went to Paris Island, and I was the platoon artist in boot camp. So I got to do the flags and all that stuff behind the racks. They would hide me behind the racks so I could paint. So it's kind of crazy. So eventually, I joined the Marine Corps Infantry. So I went through the schools, went to Camp Pendleton. I was with 1st Battalion, 4th Marines. So my first actual duty was sea duty. I got selected by the Marine Corps because I had spent so many years drawing in my room. I never got in trouble. I qualified for this program where Marines were selected to go be guard nuclear carriers and admirals. So yeah, I went to a ship. I was stationed on ship for 2 years. And now, instead of a room at home, I'm in a berthing on a ship where I'm trying not to get in trouble. So I'm drawing there too. And what happened was I'm realizing that when I'm drawing, I was just drawing regular cartoons. Like I made up a cartoon called Venom, which was snakes with big hair. and they played musical instruments with their tails. I made up a cartoon called Brats, babies rebelling against toddler stuff. So they didn't like being little, they wanted to be adults. But the Marines around me were laughing and having a good time with it. And it wasn't until I was deployed during the Desert Shield, Desert Storm, there was a lot of downtime on ship. So we were deployed for 6 months, and then they called us back for the war, and we were there for an additional 4 months. So we were on ship for 10 months. So during all this time, there was a lot of pent-up tension and things like that because we couldn't really get off ship. So I still remember drawing on the mess decks, and the Marines around me were playing chess and cards and all that. But as I was drawing, I would show them, and they would be laughing, and they'd pass it around. And so I saw this little spark that would soon become a roaring fire. So I knew I could make a difference on ship. So I started, one of my friends said, you should go to the admin office on ship and see if they would post your cartoons. And I said, oh, okay, I got nothing else to do. So I went up to the ship's admin office, and sure enough, every week they would put one on the admin door so everybody on ship could come by the door and read it and laugh. So it was like the first time being published. So, you know, it was fun. It was like my own little Facebook, but it was on ship.
Exactly.
You know, I had everybody, you know, there just having a good time. And then basically from there, I just realized that you know, I could turn this into something. So you have to realize too that it's all kind of chopped up, where I would draw, and I never really had the idea for Semper Toons. I just knew I was drawing cartoons, but I knew there was something there. So that's when I rotated from 1st Battalion, 4th Marines to Quantico. So I was an instructor at the basic school where they train officers. So while there, I was still drawing, and I was drawing cartoons, and someone said, you know, why don't you take these to the base paper, the Quantico Sentry? And I said, all right, well, let me go see.
Everybody reads the Sentry. Everybody reads the Sentry. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. So yeah. I went to the Sentry, and sure enough, they said, yeah, well, can you do one a week? And that's when it hit me. Like, now I'm going to be obligated on top of my Marine Corps career. And, you know, it's one cartoon a week, but the thing is, like, it has to be funny and creative, and you just have to, you know, there's a process. So it's not like just saying I can whip one out. So not knowing if I could do it, being a Marine, I was like, heck yeah, I can do it. You know, I got this. Don't worry about it. I'm going to bring you like 10. So, you know, I bit off way more than I could chew. But actually what happened was, you know, I had my first 2 or 3, so that got me 3 weeks ahead. But then when it really started clicking was, I could look around me, and just every day there was crazy stuff going on where Marines are having fun. And, you know, for us it's fun, but if you twist it a little bit, it becomes like a story. So as soon as I started doing that, I had all the material I needed in the world, you know, and so the wheel started spinning a little bit faster. Then I had to leave the Quantico Sentry and go to 2nd Battalion, 1st Marines out at Camp Pendleton. So what I did was I left a folder full of cartoons with the Quantico Sentry, and I promised them that even though I was in California, I was going to mail them cartoons, because back then there was no internet. So I had to draw them, and then we had to get them in the mail, my wife and I. So if I could do one paper, maybe I could do more. So that's when I reached out to, like, before the Marine Times existed, it was the Navy Times. That publishing company just started. So I reached out to them, they published me. Then I had the crazy idea of every day at lunch, I would have pockets full of quarters, and I would go to the phone booth and I would call base newspapers, like everywhere I could find phone numbers and things like that. So eventually that's how the following started building up. So now, while I was an instructor at the basic school, I'll keep this short, but there was a project. We had a live fire range at TBS where they had a giant map. And this map was used for showing families a live fire range. So the families would come out, and all the second lieutenants would have a live fire range with, like, you know, weapons, bombers, helicopters, and we were involved in that. But this map got really worn up. So I had to take that to the graphics shop at Quantico. And this was the first time I knew the Marine Corps had a graphics MOS. So since I was the artist out at TBS, they sent me over there with this map. And as soon as I walked in the building, I just realized, I need to change my job. So I did the map. I inquired about how to get into the MOS. And at the time it was Michelle Curlin was the OIC. And basically she said, I'm going to need to see a portfolio. So literally that day, I got home, me and my wife went to Office Depot. I got a piece of cardstock. I got a bunch of push pins and all the artwork I had been working on forever with Venom and all that stuff. I pinned to this cardstock. And I actually had to bent the back of each push pin so the art wouldn't fall off the board. Because I was straight up just Neanderthal. But the next day I took the portfolio back and she looked at it and she liked what she saw. And she said that she would give me a recommendation if I filed for the lat move. So this was the crazy part. I got my orders and me and my wife had to go back to California. So here I am in the infantry and I have to do a deployment, but at the same time, I'm trying to lat move and re-enlist. So on this deployment, I'm trying to keep in touch and I'm drawing and everything else. And I'm still doing the same thing. But then what happened was on the deployment, I had some full color cartoons that I had been doing with the Quantico Century. I did them all in black and white, but then I started using colored pencils, right? And I've always worked out of a Ziploc bag. So here it is. So I'm just really old school. I mean, there's batteries and pens and all kinds of weird stuff in there, but it's kind of cool. So I had some colored cartoons. So what I did was our first port, I got off ship and I went to a local like Kinko's, but it was in Singapore. And I made colored copies. And I went back on ship and I would sell them for $10 a piece. And that's when I was like, you know what? Oh, now we're, I was like, this could really work.
There's money in this.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. But the crazy thing was, this is when it all really came to fruition. The Marines that were buying them were mailing them back home so that their families would understand what we were going through without the hard edge. And that meant more to me than anything, because that's when it was overwhelming on how powerful morale and inspiration can be. So basically, if the Marines around me had a voice, I could give the whole Marine Corps a voice, every other service in the world, including those, that speak different languages. That's why my characters don't have rank. I can change the uniforms wherever I want. And basically, I got my lat move. I came back. I was at the same graphics shop in Quantico because I had the OJT. And then my wife, Amy, and I, we would buy mats. We would mat the cartoons, and then we would sell them. So here's another, this is how we started selling. At Quantico, we kind of took off with Semper Toons. But how we really started selling was when I got back off deployment from 2-1, I told my wife, I think we can sell these and make money. So this is what we did. We went down to Oceanside Boulevard, and there was a nice lady that owned a surplus store. And I went in and I had like 4 cartoons, and I said, I'd like to sit out front and sell copies of these to the Marines and whoever's walking by for a commission. And she said, don't worry about the commission. You can sit out there just to see what you can do today. So she brought out some lawn furniture. It was a white lawn furniture table and 2 lawn chairs. And I have these 4 prints on the table. And as the Marines were walking by, I would tell them, they would be like, what's this? And they would laugh. And I'd say, well, they're $10 each. So if they would buy them, and then I would say, my wife and I would say, well, give us about a half hour and come back and you can get your print. So the Marines would go shop in Oceanside, and then my wife would drive down to Kinko's and make a copy and then drive back to the table. So that's when it really stuck.
Wow. Yeah. So it was like, that was your test marketing, actually.
We were just trying to make people laugh on the sidewalk.
I love it. I completely love it. But it worked. It was great.
Did.
Yeah.
And that was the power of morale. You can't deny a laugh. It's the most powerful thing in the world.
It is.
So from there, we knew we had something. Then we rotated back to Quantico. And now I'm at Quantico, and I went back to the base paper. Now you got to remember that all the time I published up until this point, I kept calling myself Sergeant Wolf. That was the name of the cartoon.
Okay.
But now at Quantico, I went back to the Century, and they wanted me to start again, but there was a new editor. And that's the moment he said, "What do you want to call it?" And I was like, Semper Toons. And that's when it was born. The name Semper Toons was born. And ever since that moment, that's how it's been published.
I love it. I love it. And I do think it's important to have a brand that's separate from your name. So there's you, but then there's the brand. So they can be separate things. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. And you gotta, I mean, for everybody out there, that's why sometimes you're walking your purpose and you don't even know it. Because I had no idea about marketing, branding, any of that stuff. But along the lines, it was all happening for me. So at that point, we started buying matting. We had a locker full of folders in our home office, and every folder had every MCX and every base newspaper in it. So the cartoons we would mail out to the base newspapers, and we went to the Marine Corps Exchange on Quantico to try to be a vendor inside the store. So here's the crazy thing. At the time we did that, Marines and active duty and officers were not allowed to be vendors because there was a conflict of interest. Because you worked on base, and it was just a policy that was in place. So what my wife did was she wrote a letter to the director of MCCS, and we submitted our prints and our cartoons and all that. So the greatest thing about what we did also for the military is we got a letter back saying that DOD changed their policy.
Good,
Yes,
because that's ridiculous. Although you are the vendor and you're also the customer,
Yeah.
It's a nonprofit organization. You're not in competition with them. It's ridiculous that they would have had that policy all that time. Imagine all the talent that they could have harvested from within the base. Just my opinion. I'm so glad that you did that. So glad.
Yes, ma'am. So that was, I can't confirm it was DOD, but I know that the Morale, Welfare, and Recreation for the Marine Corps sent us the letter saying that you are now authorized to sell.
Huge victory. Huge
Oh, it was
victory for
crazy.
Marines. Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy. Now, if you can crochet or do woodworking, or it doesn't matter, families can get together and be vendors on the weekends wherever they want, make a little extra money to help them.
And Marines want to buy from each other. They want to support each other.
Yes, ma'am. Yep. So again, all this was happening, and we were just kind of learning as we went. So at that point, we got the matting and we made the prints, and I made my 1997 calendar. And then we went to the exchange, and this is when it's funny that my wife wasn't really sure. We weren't sure what to expect, but it got so crazy, like we could barely keep up. Like we had opened the floodgates to morale, and like people, these were like, now Christmas, you could send somebody a laugh for Christmas, so that would last forever. Like you said, like there's prints out there that people have bought that they send me pictures of from like, 1994, 1995, and they're still in the plastic or people frame them. So it's just, now it's endless. I don't even know where they're at or, what people use them for, but it's just kind of taken on a life of its own. And I'm just, trying to keep it going.
I love that. First of all, I wanted to go back and comment about what you said about how when you just started looking around you, you found like a bottomless well of content. I am just sort of I live in story. There came a time a few years ago where I realized that I just love story. My mind, I read 50 novels a year.
Wow.
I all while going to school full time or, writing about Marines or researching Marines, or I just love story so much. I love story. And I love stories about individual Marines, but it doesn't have to be great stories of tremendous valor. It just has to be a Marine doing something that I consider courageous. And I can remember telling one of my friends, a Marine, that I was in Walmart in Jacksonville, North Carolina, and I was sitting on a bench in the garden department in June. And he's like, "You're just watching the Marines go by and their families and watching what they're doing." I said, "I am," because it's so different than watching people anywhere else. They behave differently. It's like if you watch Marines, I don't know. It's like nothing is if something's out of order, a Marine will pick it up and put it back on the shelf. It's like if a kid misbehaves, they're going to sort it out right there.
Yes, ma'am.
It's fascinating to me. I love that. So like from a humor standpoint, like I hadn't even thought about thinking about it from a humor standpoint, but so I can see that if you have an ability, see, I don't have that talent, but from your talent pool, that being on base all day, in classes all day, the chow hall, walking, especially at Quantico. I mean, and I mean, just in Q-Town, just walk from one end of Q-Town to the other,
you already got a book. I mean, you got a book. Every vlog is like a book. And, and it is endless. I mean, you can get a haircut. You already have, you don't know what people are going to be talking about in the barbershop. I mean, it's just, it's priceless, but it's almost like we're all breathing the same air. Yeah. I was born with this ability to see what type of oxygen it is. Like, that minute way of picking up on things that, like, I think the whole world kind of takes that for granted. There's great things around us every day. There's inspiration around us every day. But if you're focused on all the other stuff, you really can't, what I want to say, you really can't enjoy life at the fullest, And for every time a little kid is out of line or, something is wrong, there's 100 laughs that go with that, So that's all I do. I look for that. But when I always say that it's easy to make the Marines laugh because that's all we want to do. But when I really started turning the corner on what Semper Toons was about and the brand, and basically my entire purpose for being on the planet was to give the families from the newborn all the way to grandma and grandpa a bridge that connected them to their service member. But it didn't have a hard edge on it. It had a soft edge where, a Marine could talk about what it's like to be in the field and be rained on for so long that their fighting hole becomes a swimming pool, that type of stuff. And, in some other ways you can explain that and it sounds miserable. Like if you're sitting in a puddle of water and you can't get out of it because it's a defensive position, you can tell that a certain way, but with a cartoon, you can make fun of it and then almost make it a learning experience. So that's where it's all gone. That's now every time I draw one, that's where I take it. I take it to the experience, the story, the kindness, love, toughness, like everything that embodies a Marine and their families. And that's how it kind of spread into the other services, because really, I don't think all the other services, nobody can deny morale. So it kind of crept up on them too, this new thing that was like, oh, look, we finally have a way to tell our stories and our families understand. So it was cool.
Now, tell me about where are you going from here? Now you have a store on your site, but where can we get your stuff?
Well, I'm still in my own fighting position. So I do my own website. I do want to publish more books in the future. My first 2 books were self-published. So, we had to come out of pocket for those books. my new focus though is trying to use technology, and it'd be great to be sponsored, by a company that could help me do calendars and figurines. And I've always said my main goal is that Semper Toons is the Walt Disney for the military, but I don't have capital investors and all that type of stuff. But all my cartoons could easily be made into figurines, the situations, greeting cards. Just take Disney and put Semper Toons on everything. That's where I want to go. And I'm trying to take baby steps to get there, but
That's a brilliant idea. I hadn't really thought about that. Yeah. I love that.
yeah, so that's the pinnacle of where every family could go in the military.
Well, one wonderful takeaway I always remember with Walt Disney was that he filed for bankruptcy 7 times before his studio took off. So there were so many times he could have given up, but he had something good that was waiting to happen. So I sort of feel the same way about people with talent like yours. That's not to say that you've had failure, because I don't see really any failure with you, but I mean, you probably know the stories that we don't know, but but I'm just saying that we all have like a trajectory we dream of, but I hadn't really thought about what you're saying. I really, that's kind of brilliant, actually. I hadn't thought about it as being something that could be developed. My goodness, that's really kind of something. Have you developed anything like with respect to longer stories than a cartoon? Like short movie, like a short animated movie?
No, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, in your own, like a story, even like a script.
Oh, no, ma'am. I mean, see, this is the opportunity that, like, I'm in the swimming pool all by myself. I mean, I'm surrounded by so much. I'm trying to take little bites, but here on the back end, all that takes money.
I know it does. It does.
So, the vision is humongous. It's just waiting to come to fruition because, my audience is based on a demographic I did a long time ago. So let's just use this as an example. So a Disney customer comes in as a mother and father, and let's say 3 kids. All right, so that's all great. They go, they have fun. What a Semper Toon customer gets and would get is the fact that our demographics show that the service member is connected to grandma, grandpa, maybe 2, 3 aunts, uncles. They have kids. The family has kids. And now they can all go to the park together because they're there for the service member. So you just think about now instead of 4 people, this could be like a family reunion going together, but they're also honoring the service member. They're honoring the service. They're honoring the morale of the military. And it wouldn't matter what day or year, because it would all reflect all service to the very day they're there. So that's the vision. And you would have movies, stories, cartoons, animated features. I mean, just the stories from other people being animated based on the Semper Toon brand would be huge, because there's for every heroic and motivating and just life-inspiring story out there, and every movie that's ever been made about that, there's 10 times more funny stories, morale, just craziness. So, that's our demographics is, huge.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point when you think about it in terms of the extended family, because the military is not just the immediate family. It's always the extended family. It always involves the extended family.
Yes, ma'am. That's what I call the foundation. without the foundation of family, there would be no military. And that's what I really believe they deserve just as much credit as the service member. Because without mom and dad, the service member wouldn't even be here to join. Without the inspiration of grandma, grandpa, the sisters, the aunts, the uncles to keep going, they might not have served, 8 years, 10 years, or even joined at all. So it's just like it's a whole nother world. I see a whole nother world besides the one I'm walking around in. And all I do is I look for the good stuff. It doesn't matter what it is.
That's funny. When you say that you kind of like in your mind, it's a whole other world. It's the exact same for me. It's like, I love what you said about how there's a soft edge to it. The humor puts a soft edge to the reality of serving in the military. And much of marketing of things that support Marines, and as you say, all branches, involve historical information or events that are kind of hard to swallow. Military history involves very sad, heartbreaking, difficult times, but they're just ordinary people facing them.
That's right. Yes, ma'am.
And ordinary young people. And as you say, these ordinary young people are normally, not always, but normally motivated by their family members. They're motivated by their grandfather or their mother or their auntie, like you said. And so they go off to face things that so that the rest don't have to. And we want to, as veterans or as civilians, want to honor them and support them, but it is very hard to be reminded of the difficult details of it. So if you can do that in a way that takes the edge off, that is the truth of it.
That's right.
It is the truth of it, but it isn't something that wakes you up at night.
That's right.
Then amen. Because I think about these Marines, and I think about their stories, and I think about their walk, not so much of course not from humor, because that's why I love what you're doing, because I just don't have that talent, but also not from a perspective of battle, because that's not my talent either. Like strategy and war fighting, that's not my strong suit. But I just sort of think about the everyday life of these people. I love that. I just, you get every one of these 4-star generals started out just like you and just like me. Yeah. They went to some public school in nowhere America in kindergarten, whereas in 75 years ago or 100 years ago in Europe or England, you had to buy a commission. You had to have money to become a commissioned officer or a class, had to be in a class system. So how did they get from here to there? So that I spend my mind in that, how did somebody go from there? And it really is everyday decisions. It's the everyday choices we make. And that's what I love about Semper Toons, is that you sort of make fun of the everyday choices we make. The everyday things we have to face, not make fun of it, but just make it funny. How about that? You were talking about the sleeves in a recent, I don't know. I think it's funny. It's a big deal. It's like a big deal. Uniform changes. Like, for instance, I can remember when I went to Guantanamo Bay on a press junket. It's kind of a dog and pony show, if I'm honest. Have you ever been down there to Guantanamo?
No, ma'am.
Well, there's a lot of Marines down there, actually.
Yep.
Yeah. And this was actually when it was kind of a hot place. It was actually 2006 or something. But the point is, I went down there to see Marines, and I went with some other press organizations were there. And every week they did a little like I say, dog and pony show. And you could take pictures and interview with the bosses, and it was kind of interesting. But I wore a dress every day every morning I put on a dress and tried to look nice. And I can remember one of the reporters from an unnamed outlet said, I just don't know why you're getting dressed up. This is the tropics. You need to be in jeans or, Bermuda shorts, or, I don't see why you're putting on a dress. And I said, you've never had to put on a uniform, have you? You have never had to put together a uniform in the morning, have you? I said, if you had any idea, they make it look easy. But if you had any idea what goes into the uniforms those people are putting on, you'd put it on, you'd put yourself together too, because it's not easy anyway. I'm just saying. So go ahead. I'm sorry, rattling on here.
That's what I love hearing, is the fact that there are the two different worlds. You were face to face with the other world. It's just like either what's going on within the military family, the military service, or you don't.
That's right.
And that's the other thing I like about what Semper Toons can do, is you were kind of like a Semper Toon standing there. You just didn't go far enough to explain it in a funny way. So you were
what would you have done with that?
It would have to be just like spontaneous. I would be like, I guess I'd be like a smart ass, because I'd have to see what they look like, first of all.
Well, okay. So it actually was a foreign, I'm not going to say which country, but a very prestigious foreign country reporter who spoke English, a very handsome man.
Yeah.
Okay. So polished and
No, I've already thought about it. The question, basically go back to them and say, look, tomorrow morning, right, I'll meet you here and I want you dressed up, right? Tonight we can go out and buy a 3-piece suit and we'll just, let's go through tomorrow together. But I'm sure they would have declined.
Yeah.
So there's also the opportunities in those types of situations is almost like, if you're not going to think through the honorable thought process of honoring those you are there talking to, technically what you're telling me is that person was just there to be there. They weren't fully invested in what they were seeing and hearing, and even after 4 days of interviews, they were just still there.
Yeah.
So basically, the other thing that, I would have said was, okay, at the end of this trip, I'm going to ask you again based on what you've learned, right? So that's the best part. It's like a double-edged sword. I can hit you with humor all day, but when I think you're treading into the fact that you're not giving everybody around you respect, that's when you're going to get the gunny.
I love that.
You know what I'm saying? That's one of my other quotes is, I can make you laugh your ass off, or I can chew your ass off. So you just have to pick which one you want. And I would prefer to laugh, because there's just so much ass chewing going on out there in the world. So it's just crazy, but yeah, I try to find the positive in everything, but I just don't tolerate people that are ignorant, when it comes to the military and what everyone's trying to do. We're just trying to make it through the day, safer, stronger, tighter as a family. And, if that guy would have understood where he was involved and what he was doing, he could have made more friends during that trip that would have been lifelong than he could ever imagine.
Yeah.
Yep. If he would have just embraced it.
There was one, like 10 years later, so at least 5 years ago, I saw a picture of all of us at the end of one of the nights. Okay. And we're all in t-shirts. It's at the end of the night and we're at one of the outdoor pub bar places there, Guantanamo Bay. And I said to a civilian friend, pick out from the picture who is in the military they're all press people. Who is in the military or veterans and who isn't? And they said, well, how can I do that? And I said, they're like, is it the haircut? Is it? And I said, well, that's one way. And so after some back and forth, I said, the way you tell is who has one hand behind the back and who has their beer out in front of them.
Yeah, exactly. That's a Semper Toon. I mean, that right there is you set the characters up where the character's saying, you know, if you can guess where the military person is in this photo, I'll buy you a chocolate cake. You know, and that's exactly how it is. I already have it in my head. I could draw it, and it would be done. But that's just one instance of millions and millions of moments.
That was my one attempt at humor. That was my one funny moment. But it's true. But I get it. But I really, that's why perhaps why I value what you do so much, because it is everywhere. But I do not have that gift. And that's why I think what you do is so popular. Mm-hmm. That's why Semper Toons is so popular, is because everybody gets it. I think very few. I'm like most of us, we don't have the talent to like express it, but we know it when we see it.
Yeah. I just don't, like I said, I was born with this gift for a reason, but in reality, when you break down everything I have to do to create all this humor, it's almost like I'm my own TV sitcom. I'm the writer, I'm the actor, I'm the sound guy, I'm everything in one. And I can't explain it to anybody. My passion is just making sure that everybody has a better day. And I've always said that from the very beginning. I don't know who enjoys Semper Toons. I know a lot of people do, but I always draw for a silhouette of somebody like in a fighting position that I can't see their gender. I can't see anything about them, but they're out there in the world and they need that laugh. And when they laugh, they can laugh with their families and share the story. So, that's just where my heart is.
I know that, and I love that. I am going to just send all my positive energies your way, and that the right talent comes along to explode what you do into something that leaves the two-dimensional page to be something like you dream of, because it definitely deserves to be out there. And again, I do want to also mention how much I value the diversity of your cartoons. Like you say, there's no rank, that there's always male, female, people of all kinds of colors, all kinds of ages. I always appreciate that, especially as I age. No, you can't really tell the age of the people. And I also appreciate that they're not all like perfect athletic specimens.
Oh, yeah.
And I love that. They're like real people you encounter in the military. I love that so much. So I wanted to get that in. And so if somebody wanted to contact you, they would contact you through your site. Is that the best way?
I have it. My email is sempertoon@aol.com.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. But the other thing I'd like to add is that, one of my inspirations growing up was like The Far Side. I loved how, Gary Larson would twist life. So that's why you see my bulldogs talking. I have animals. I have all kinds of things in my cartoons that are alive and thinking, because they're also part of the process. I can make two M16s thinking. I can have the worms leaving the rifle range because the staff NCOs don't know how to shoot. There's all kinds of stuff. But the world it's about the people, but then I break it down into all the elements. Like I said, the worms, the bulldogs, it just all these inanimate objects that make up a part of our life. So it's really fun. And I think people like that too. Like, I just did the cover of Leatherneck magazine with the bulldogs. Did you get to see it? Oh, yeah, your sound.
I did not see that, but I'm going to find it.
Well, yeah, it's right here. I'll show you.
Ooh, look at that. Oh my golly, that is a gorgeous thing.
Yeah, so basically, when it's just like the Leatherneck community, all the Marines around the world that love Leatherneck, everything Leatherneck stands for, but they encompass the entire world we're talking about.
Yeah.
So that's why I used 3 bulldogs, because you don't know if they're male or female. You know, you can tell that one's older and one's younger, but the fact is you take out everything and you just let that humor sit there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you celebrate the Marine Corps birthday because the youngest Marine is motivated.
Love
He
it.
jumped into the cake, and that's going to take the Marine Corps another 245 years ahead.
That's right.
You know, and that's why the 2 bulldogs in the back are laughing. That's what they want, right? They want that. Yeah, that's what they want.
I
So
love that.
it takes a lot of thought process to do one piece of art that stands alone, that represents everything. And that's just where I have honed my skill, like a wizard in a tower. You know, it's read thousands of books and done thousands of spells. To me, this is the honor of honoring everybody is getting easier and easier because of my purpose.
Yeah. I love it. I love it so much. You know, you could do this a while longer, right? I mean, there's no. How old was Charles Schultz when he stopped? I mean, he was 90 something when he died, and I think he was making cartoons weeks before he died, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. You know, I decades. You have decades ahead of you.
Yes, ma'am. I mean, I truly hope so. I mean, I love what I do. I don't know. It's just, I'm excited, you know. For Leatherneck, they commissioned me to do this year's the birthday, next year's Christmas, then the following year is the birthday, the next year is Christmas. So, you know, I'm just honored to have that title. And then the other thing I wasn't sure you were aware of was I have the Gunny Wolf artist side where I do formal art. And I have quotes out there in the world where I motivate people with quotes.
Where can I find that stuff?
One of my most famous quotes is to observe a Marine is inspirational, to be a Marine is exceptional. So
That's a beautiful thing.
yeah, thank you. And it all, you know, it's just.
But where can we find your art, like your more formal art?
It's mixed in on my Semper Toons website.
Okay.
You'll see like my Iwo Jima print. My hand. Yep.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Yeah, my hand drawn Iwo Jima with the quote is a print that we sell.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Wait a minute. That is also with the Marine Security Guard schoolhouse. Is that right? And that's for sale too. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Beautiful thing.
I have the Semper Toons side, but part of Semper Toons is the Gunny Wolf formal artist.
Mm.
One of my commissions right now is I'm doing a book cover for a novel that a Marine has written that he's going to sell on Amazon. So as an artist, I'm doing all kinds of things.
Well, do you want to tell us what book that is so that we can look for it?
It's called Bear, Bear, and basically it's a graphic novel, kind of like a bear that's Cujo, and it's by Van Allen. He's the creator and author, but he reached out to me to do the book cover, and now I'm all excited to do a grungy looking bear that's, you know, pretty much crazy. So I can go from one end of the spectrum to the other. My son and I created a cartoon together called Balloon Toons, and you can see that.
I saw some mention of that. Do talk about that for a second.
Yeah, so when my son was around 4 or 5 years old, I was drawing circles. I was showing him how to draw circles. And so he took his pen, and when he hit the circle, he kind of drew a string. So at that very moment, Balloon Toons was created. And basically what it is it's a whole nother world of balloons. Like if you went into a balloon world, you would see everything made out of balloons, which is what balloon artists do. Dogs, swords, you know, when they go fishing, they're balloon fish, but they're hanging up, they're full of helium, so they're going up instead of down. But what they do is they use their strings. They use their strings as their arms, their legs, and they can move around the world just like you and I. but they're balloons. And the crazy part is the whole point of them is that they're fragile, but they still go out into the world and be themselves. So
that is charming. That is a beautiful, charming plant. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, so that's a whole nother hallmark division of Semper Toons. Once we get balloon tunes going, that's more coffee mugs, greeting cards, posters. It's all inspirational stuff.
I love it. I completely love it.
Yes,
I have big hopes for you this way. But I get it. I completely get it. I hadn't even thought about what you discussed here, but I get it. I get your vision. I hadn't even considered that, but I completely value it. And again, I'm going to send like all of my positive energy, prayer, and everything your way, that's right, that it'll come together, that, like bit by bit, like you were saying, baby steps, that it'll come together, because you certainly have the motivation and the accomplishments to ensure that it's going to happen. I love it. I completely love it. I love this. And I'm completely honored I'm your first video podcast.
Oh, well, the honor's all mine. I mean, it's just the fact that you are just so happy makes me happy.
Yeah, wow.
Just multiply that by however many people love reading the cartoons and just enjoy sharing that morale. Because, I would hope it's going to make you even happier when you can tell people about our interview, and now you finally understand where I'm coming from.
Love that.
I mean, hopefully Semper Toons is a great conversation over some coffee, and you get some laughs out of it, and kind of like spreads. Yeah, it's awesome.
Now listen, is there any hope that the book is available currently? The book that you had published previously, is that not available at all now?
Well, yeah, so we self-published, and our publisher was out of Florida. I mean, so, shipping was crazy, but really what I need is a publisher to kind of work with, where I can just draw, or, I have 26 years worth of material where we could do a greatest of book, but I'd rather just draw and not have all the mechanics.
Yeah.
That type of stuff. And I mean, I can look online and all of those types of things, but if there's someone that's watching your podcast that has a publishing company that would work with me and my family, I'd be happy to do as many books as they want and try to get some stuff off the ground. But really, I just need to keep creating. And for so long, I've been doing everything. And I think that's kind of been my only fallback.
It is a burden. It is a burden. Yeah. It interferes with the creative process and all of that. Yeah. Okay.
So I think that's where I'm at. I have 26 years worth of material, and I'm ready to take the next step on being a professional, being published, and things like that.
Well, it's such timeless material. That's the thing, is that even though the book that you published previously, you could publish that right now and it would still be funny. That's the thing, is that it would make such a good Christmas gift.
Yes, ma'am.
And so that's why I was wondering. But so I might even sort of tag the post in LinkedIn for publishers to kind of get their attention, and see if we can't get drum up a little attention from that crowd, that camp.
And here's something that would be a challenge. It's always been a challenge for me, but ever since I started drawing Semper Toons, I have not used anything else besides Sharpies. And I just thought it'd be awesome if Sharpie would sponsor me, because I'm serious. I give them all the credit I still hand draw everything. I sketch it in pencil. I ink with Sharpies. So I just thought it'd always be cool could you imagine a commercial on TV where the Semper Toon character is using a Sharpie to draw another Semper Toon character, all kinds of, because it doesn't exist in the world in corporate sponsorships.
Have you ever taken a video of your actual creating this?
No.
You should do that. You should have your wife, have Amy come over your shoulder while you're doing it, and just have her make a video of the whole thing, and then have her speed up the video and post it online, and tag all the brands you use, Sharpie, whoever the brands of the pencils, the brand of the paper,
Yeah.
Because that would be blow my mind about.
It's crazy, right?
That would be a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that's the other thing too, is there's so much value on the humor that the outside world is not even really, see, I guess they're so blinded by what we talked about. Military's military, combat boots, camis, dog tags, squared away, salutes. But just like the person you were talking to on your trip, until someone tells them, look, this humor thing could blow your company wide open, you just gotta give Semper Toons a chance. I just think it would be over. The NFL, the NBA, any company out there, and the paper companies, the paper I draw on, they don't know. And that's where I'm always at the top of the mountain with my microphone, trying to let the world know that morale is worth so much.
To think about doing that, and then, or your son, or somebody who is comfortable. Yep. Yeah. And then,
right.
Yeah, and let me know, because then I'll post it on my LinkedIn.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And I just want to say, so Semper Toons is my wife and I's LLC. So another historic thing that happened was, I worked for the Marine Corps. My 9-to-5 job is I'm a graphic artist for the Marine Corps on Quantico. So when Combat Camera and Public Affairs merged into Comstrat, they decided that I could do cartoons as a government employee for the government to get the world laughing. So that's why when you see Semper Toons is Semper Toons when I come home, but Core Toons that I post on my LinkedIn and my other pages, Core Toons is what I do at work for the Department of Defense. So, I want everyone to know that those are two separate entities, but I'm the same artist.
Good. So you're saying that Core Toons is owned by the government. The copyright is the government's, but Semper Toons, you are the copyright holder.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, but it's still, it still grows your brand.
Exactly. The eyeballs, it's all in the eyeballs.
So when you do a video,
yes, ma'am.
When you do that little video, that short video of a blank page to a completed cartoon, and somebody over your shoulder just showing your hands working, make sure it's a Semper Toon.
Yes, exactly. Yes, I will.
This has been a blast for me, and I hope that it's a breakthrough for you and Semper Toons, but also for the whole military family's ability to have more humor in their world.
Yes.
Via your work.
Yeah, thank you so much. I can't thank you for allowing me to do this.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Are you kidding me? It's such an honor. Listen, that's all Core Stories Innovators is. It's all Core Stories is. It's just a little nonprofit publication, just trying to get unsung people like you who don't get enough press, don't get enough credit for really having a big influence in the Marine Corps family.
Wow.
Give them a little bit more press. That's exactly what you're doing, just from a different angle.
Yes, ma'am.
Love you so much, Gunny.
Oh, well, yeah, I love you too. Thank you so much. Everybody that's watching, and thank you for 26 years, and I hope 26 more.
You know it, at least that much more. At least that much more. Listen, we're going to catch up with you another time. How about that? Maybe a year from now. We're going to figure out where you are from then. How about, would you do another interview with us later on?
Heck yeah. Just let me know. I'm there.
Great, Gunny. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do we love that? We love him. We love him and we love his work. And so now you know how to find him. And if you are in this business of the creative arts business of publishing or filmmaking or any of that business, and you would like to work with him, please reach out to him. Anyway, thank you. And again, please hit subscribe. Thanks, and Semper Fidelis.
Core Stories, Ordinary Marines, Extraordinary Lives.